I think Osoto Gari is one of the best throws ever invented. And in this episode, I'm going to take a look at different ways to do Osoto Gari. So if you want to know a little more about Osoto Gari, stick around. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Scott, and welcome to another episode of Freestyle Judo. Well, today I'm going to talk about Osoto Gari and a lot about Osoto Gari. I think it's one of the best techniques ever invented, whether a throw, ground fighting, no matter what. It is versatile, it is powerful, and I think it's one of the best self-defense throws ever invented, and certainly used in all kinds of sport grappling, judo, sambo, jiu-jitsu, no matter what. So Osoto Gari is a great throw. I think we're all agree on that. And I'm just going to talk about three of my favorite ways of doing Osoto Gari based on, success ratio and also, personal preference. Really, it's my show, so why not? So anyway, we will look at Osoto Gari a little bit later. But right now, I want to talk about judo in the NCAA. Is there a move afoot to get judo in the NCAA? No, but there ought to be. The National Collegiate Athletic Association here in the United States, it governs all athletic, collegiate sports. Why not judo? Now, I know we have an existing organization that's been in existence for some time, but why not hook up with the NCAA? And I mention this now, at this point in our history of judo in the United States, because it's already been brought up once before. And in 1980, there was a proposal on the minutes of the meeting. I was there. I voted on it to whether we should include judo as an NCAA sport. And I don't remember the details. I mean, we're going back a lot of years. But I do remember that there was a valid offer at that time, from as I remember it, from the NCAA to put judo on their calendar of sports, on their list of sports, for collegiately, collegiate sports. And it was voted down. Now, I voted for it. I was already out of college by then, but it sure would have helped a lot of other young people maybe get college scholarships and certainly help their way through school and a valid athletic endeavors, judo. Why not wrestling? Wrestling is in NCAA sport, football, you name it. A lot of sports are NCAA sports. Why not judo? And I think that should be looked at again. And I don't have any power of any way of influencing this other than to make this comment here that I think we should relook at this. We should take another serious look at getting judo back in the NCAA. And here's why. A lot of people talk about how judo is dying in the United States, and it is dying. The number of people doing judo now, as I speak now, is considerably less than it was 40, 50 years ago when I got in judo. Okay, I can remember a lot more judo activity, bigger tournaments, bigger national events, bigger local, regional things, bigger dojos. Now you don't see as many. And everybody blames Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Everybody blames maybe Taekwondo. Yeah, there are a lot of other competition in the martial arts. That's true. But through the years, we in the judo community have been shooting ourselves in the foot. Okay, we've not made it grow. There have been a lot of opportunities we could have made it grow, and back in 1980 was one of those opportunities we could have made it grow into an NCAA sport. If judo does become an NCAA sport, and I think it should, it will open the opportunities collegiately, but also that filters down to high school and also Little League. Let's take wrestling. Wrestling is a similar sport to judo. It's a rough, tough sport based on conditioning, balance, coordination, many of the things that judo does too. And why do kids wrestle? It's a hard activity. It's not always fun to go to wrestling practice, okay? Why do they do that? Well, because it's a high school sport. And by being in high schools, it gives it legitimacy, okay? Well, judo's legitimate. Yes, it's an Olympic sport. So is wrestling. So why shouldn't judo be an NCAA sport? I know in the AAU, we do everything we can to develop grassroots clubs, and I know in other organizations do the same thing. But why don't we, get together? Why don't we say to the NCAA, we'd like to see judo in as an NCAA sport? Now, yes, there is an existing Collegiate Judo Association, but it doesn't have the clout the NCAA does. I mean, let's face it, the NCAA is a huge, massive organization with a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of power, a lot of exposure to media that in judo we don't have, but the NCAA has. So what I'm saying is just a suggestion for anybody who might be in influential position of power, something to think about, something to do. Let's talk to the NCAA about getting judo as a sport. And again, you know, we can talk about, you know, it's a great activity. Judo is physical education. It's one of the best forms of physical education ever invented. Kano was a genius. But if we don't do something with that to get more people involved in this physical education and this great sport that it is, then we're going to stay a small, very small, almost insignificant sport in the scheme of things. When you see how many people live in America here, 330 million people, and I think probably at a best estimate, we probably have no more than maybe 20,000 people actually doing judo on a steady basis, and I'm being generous when I use those numbers. And we can blame other martial arts, Taekwondo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all we want, but the fact does remain that judo's been around a long time, and we should have done something about this before now. We should have done it in 1980, and it was voted down. And I think that was one of the dark days in American judo history. A lot of people want to forget that. They don't even remember it happened. But it did happen, and we did vote the NCAA down. There's been no offer since at that time. Nothing's been on the table from the NCAA. No one in judo that I know of has tried to get the NCAA recognition. I think it's about time we do it. Osoto Gari, major outer reap. It is probably one of the first throws that we teach new students. Okay, in many cases it is. It's an easy throw to learn, really, but it's a hard throw to master, just like any throwing technique. And it is a very, very versatile technique. You can take the basics of an Osoto Gari and make it work for you. You can expand it as far as you want to go. And again, the same can be said for any type of throwing technique, but it's especially true with Osoto Gari because it is so fundamentally basic in its movement. Through the years, when I've driven around and seen kids play and wrestle around in their front yards or in the schoolyard or somewhere, one of the natural movements they do is tripping the other guy's leg. That's one of the very basic things. Another thing is to grab him around his neck and throw him over his hip, like Koshi-Guruma, which I also think is a natural movement. But Osoto Gari is one of those natural things people do. And in judo, we have really expanded on it to make it a very, very significantly important technique. It really does work. So I've obviously sold you on the idea of Osoto Gari, obviously, but you probably were sold anyway. So let's talk about Osoto Gari a little bit. I have three favorite types. Now, again, there are a lot of types of Osoto Gari, a lot of ways, a lot of applications and variations. These are just my three favorite ones, and I'm going to do 3 videos on them here of how we teach it. The first one is what I call a step-in or straight-line Osoto Gari. And this was the very first kind of Osoto Gari that I learned as a student from Jerry Sweat in 1965. And it's still the very first type of Osoto Gari that I teach my students, and a lot of our coaches at Welcome At do the same thing. It's a very basic, elemental way of doing it. However, it is extremely useful and still... I've seen high-level judo players like Yamashita back in the days when he was the reigning champion in the 1970s and 80s. He did an Osoto Gari that was very much a straight-line step-in Osoto Gari. He was the Olympic and world champion. It worked for him. And he just made it adapt to his body type a little bit better, but it's great. So let's look first at this straight-line or step-in Osoto Gari. And this video is about 3.5 minutes long. But if you were coming into my club and learning Osoto Gari from me, this is kind of a condensed version of how you would learn it. So here we go on a straight line step-in Osoto Gari. All right, so some things to remember. Always remember, you want to start right so you can finish right. That's kind of a phrase I've used for a long time. You want to start in the right position, so when you finish it, you want to finish in the right position as well. So this is a good case in point, and I mentioned that here to start out, because when I'm doing sideways, you can see here, I don't want to be just facing you, okay? I want to be slightly to my left and slightly to his right leg, okay? Now the reason I want to do that, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to get the best angle so I get the most efficiency of my body movement here. So if I start here, when I do this, I'll be kind of walking into him. I'll kind of have to walk around the side of him. I don't want to do that. I want to step straight in and do the Osoto Gari. So I'm starting here, and just a normal grip, lapel and sleeve, kumikata. We're going to talk about this in a minute, okay? But right now, here's what it looks like. So when I do it, I'm going to step in, I'm going to pull down on the elbow, I'm going to push on the chest, set here my power hand, my Shingitai on his chest, and step in with my left foot. Step in like this. And when I step in my left foot, I bend my knee and look down at my toe, okay? All right, so that's really important now. As I do that, I pull down on the elbow. So I pull his elbow pretty much to his heel, and I'm looking at my toe. See that action? Now you see the space here between my foot and his foot? It's about a foot length. It's enough for me to get my leg through, okay? That's what I want to do. I want to break his balance, step straight in. See that I'm looking at my big toe? Now with my right foot, I want to constantly keep my knee bent and my toe pointed. And I'm going to throw them. So I'm going to do this. Immediately throw them nice and hard. It's a very hard throw. Now if you notice, when I step in, this foot comes here. You'll see a lot of people do Osoto Gari. The Gari is a reaping action. Gari means to reap. This is kind of halfway between hooking and reaping. So a gaki is more of a gaki is kind of a hooking action. And so you're kind of getting a little bit half there, but you're still reaping and going through. So, but I'm not coming up way high. It's a very stylized way to do it, and it's quite nice if you're doing Uchikomi. But this is a little more simple and direct. So when I do it, I step straight in, elbow down. Now again, when I come through, it's a hard chopping, it's a reaping motion, but it's a real fast one. Point the toe here like that, okay? All right, so here we go. Step in, and I keep, down he goes, he should be landing right in front of me, right here, okay? Now let's look at our hands. You're going to be pulling down. Let's look at the hikite, the pulling hand. You're going to be pulling straight down to the mat, like this. You're putting all his weight in his right rear heel. Here, you're locking him in place. So now that's a great target for you to attack. With this hand, my Shingitai, when I step in, when I come in, I pop it and do this. You can push, and that's good. Some guys push and drive with their elbow, like they're punching them. That might work for you. Try it. It works. But this one, the standard way, which I like this. It's like you're flicking a rod and reel like you're fishing. Like this. Okay, that's it. Lifting, pop. So come in here, like that. Step in, like that. See, it's a fast, sudden motion. Reap. All right, that's a very basic Osoto Gari. I think a lot of us learned that Osoto Gari. You probably did as well as I did in your very first maybe judo lesson or toward the first part of your career. It works. And again, from that basis, from that basic movement, then you can make a whole lot of other things happen. One of those other things that you can adapt from that basic movement is a crossbody Osoto Gari, or a lateral side-moving Osoto Gari, which I have found in my own personal use and many, many of my students, and I've seen many other people in judo, sambo, sport jiu-jitsu, no matter what, even self-defense, crossbody or a lateral movement type of Osoto Gari is extremely powerful. It's a very hard throw. And in this second video, which is about almost 5 minutes long, but it requires some study on this, so that's why we spent a little more time on this. I was actually doing a clinic down for James and Patty Wall at their wall-to-wall dojo in Denham Springs, Louisiana, with Derek Darling, and so that's why I'm wearing my fancy red and white belt for that particular video. So I normally don't wear it, but there I was in that particular case. So a little aside from that, but this was done there, and we were showing them how to do this crossbody Osoto Gari, this lateral Osoto Gari, and I mentioned a lot of points that I think, well, I'm blabbing on now. You'll know what I mean when you see it. So let's spend about almost 5 minutes here of looking at crossbody Osoto Gari. A lateral side moving Osoto. Yes, great point. And a lot of times when when we're fighting and gripping, if I can get him to take one step with me, I probably got him. So we're fighting. I get this grip, and in the process of getting all the setup happen here, I'm actually stepping once, and that helps me get there. There's a lateral side moving attack. When we're fighting here, I want to get my hand around here. Okay, that's my anchor. That's an anchor hand. So we're gripping here, we're gripping here. However I get this. There it is. Now when you do this, look at this grip, guys. See this? I'm not grabbing this way, I'm not grabbing in here. Okay? Grabbing here. And look at my elbow. I'm locking him down. I'm not just gripping with my hands. I'm using my whole arm and shoulder, and elbow and shoulder. So I'm doing this. I'm trying to cinch him in. And he knows it. I want to square my shoulders back up. I want to do what I call kill his shoulder. Make his shoulder dead. It means useless to him. That's what we're doing here. Okay? Now we're like this. I've got this grip. And he knows he's in some trouble here. Right? At this point now, I can, whatever hand I use here is my pulling hand. It could be the sleeve. It could be his. So I've got it like this. Now, let's watch this. We're still kind of squared up here, aren't we? Okay? With my elbow, I'm starting to feed him. Pull your elbow down and suck it in. Okay? Now here's Sambo. All right, now with this hand, now see how my hips are? They're fairly close. I'm not out here. Yeah, oh, I'm in trouble now. I'm here. So my right elbow and my left hip are working together. My right hip are working together. Now, look, see how I'm in proximity? Pretty close to him. Now I'm going to quickly grab his, look at the sleeve. Let's say grab the sleeve. Don't grab too low. I want to grab up here so I can suck his arms in. I want to do this, I want to pretend I'm wrapping him with my belt or a rope. I'm doing this with the belt, sucking him in. See how my elbows come in? I want this to happen. I don't want to do this. I could maybe make that work, but I'm giving him too much room to attack me. I want to break his posture this way. Right? Now, look, just look, watch the, and his balance is pretty well broken from this point. Now watch what I'm going to do. Watch my hips here and feet. My right hip turns just slightly. See how I was here? Squared up. You see this? Turn. Okay. So here, just turn. See that toe? That's the direction he's going to go in. Now watch. Now, I'm not way back here where I have to reach across there. He'll counter me. All right? You notice I started squared up? Turn. Now look at my hip. How close my hip is to him. I want to be really, almost touch him if you can. I want to pull him to me. You want to suck his body to you. In judo gripping theory, we want to lift and pull, which really works great. This is more of a standard Sambo gripping theory, where I want to suck him into me and throw him. See? Suck him in. Now I turn. Now when I come across the body, I'm going to point my toe, and I'm going to hook right across the, I don't want to go whack and jack his knee up. Always point with your toe. So here we are. If we're fighting, right hand here. Start with your right hand. Suck it in. Okay. All right. Now, I'm close enough. I don't want to be out here. I want to make sure. Now I'm thinking my right elbow and right hip are connected. So I want to get some proximity here, pretty close proximity. Like that. Now I start to grab here. And when you grab, don't grab too low because he could pop free. I lost. Now I got to start again. So suck it up here. You can either grab him here. A lot of guys, the Sambo jackets are so tight, there's usually a little gap here. Guys will grab here. But look, in any event, I'm pulling a belt over him, and I'm wrapping him into me. Elbows in. See the elbow? Don't do this. Elbows in. Now, it's a quick turn with the body, and I suck him into me. See how he came to me like this, right here? I got him. Now when I hook, don't, not with the heel, the toe.
And again, to me, in my thinking, that crossbody Osoto Gari is a very powerful, very adaptable throw. You can do all kinds of variations and different angles with it. It's just amazing. And I really, you know, I picked it up somewhere along the line back in the 70s, but it was Rene Pomerel who really hammered it home to me how effective it was. Rene Pomerel was a very influential coach that I was able to work with. Fortunately, a lot of other people have too. God rest his soul, he's passed on now. He was a great judo man. He was 7th or 8th on the real deal. And he really emphasized to me the importance of breaking the balance laterally. That we're just not very strong, balance-wise, directly to our sides. We could give more resistance even to corners and front and back, but to the sides we're very vulnerable, and that's how this lateral Osoto Gari works. And the crunching in, the crushing of the arms together, that was certainly his influence too. So I can't take credit for that, but I think it is very, very effective application of Osoto Gari. So that being said, let's look at a very good Osoto Gari that you can maybe turn a bad thing into a good thing. And I'm talking about Ken or Hop Osoto Gari. And it's a change of direction Osoto Gari, and it's very, very popular, still used. It's as old as dirt probably, but it really does work. So this third video is on Ken Hop Osoto Gari, and it is almost 4 minutes long. But again, it's a changing direction Osoto Gari. So we're going to take a look at that right now. Hook, hop. Don't make big jump, little short choppy steps. That's Ken. That's hop. Okay? And what this does, you can see quite easily, is how I hook here, and I turn around and change the direction of the throw. He thought I was going to throw this way. He might even give me a hip lock. Hook. Hop action is to change the direction of your throw, and also to give yourself a better, stronger base. Okay? So that's action. Ken means hop. He's the hop. Ken, like the name K-E-N, Ken. And that's what you're doing. And the purpose of Ken is to control the movement of your opponent and control the angle you're throwing. So that's what Ken. You'll see what we mean when we do it here. Okay. So what we're going to work on this particular way is this is really effective if a guy's bent over and he's not engaging. So you might see this judo, sambo, BJJ, whatever sport you're doing with the jacket, here it is. So he's bent over, he's not engaging, and he's just it's on a space here. And I can catch him. I want to close that distance. So here's how I can do it. Right, I get my grip. So my right hand, I'm going to grab in this particular setup, this particular version of it. I'm going to get my hand right on the floppy part of the jacket, right at the armpit. See everybody? So I've got him there. I'm kind of controlling. Well, I'm definitely controlling his shoulder. So if I grab here, he's still got a square shoulder, and he can stop and get out of the way, whatever, okay? So I want to control this. That's setting him up. I get that. Now the other hand, I'm going to grab pretty much at the elbow. I can grab lower on the sleeve if I want to get a longer grip. That's okay too, okay? But he's done, and I can be bent over too. We can be playing this game for a little bit to set him up. But watch what happens. Now I'm leading him sugar-footing. My right hand is up here controlling this pocket here with the grip. I'm sugar-footing with the right foot, okay? Now, I might even start this from this bent-over posture, and he's thinking I'm just reaching with the leg, which is a very weak attack to do. If I just reach and try to throw him from here, he'll pick my leg up and send me skyward, okay? But what I want to do with this leg is I want to use my heel to anchor inside his knee and do Ken or hop, come around the corner to shave that corner. So, I'm changing the angle from here. He's stopping. He's not letting me get that. All right. Now, I anchor here and I close the arms, hop, and throw straight back. See that grip? Get that pocket in there. That's important. Try to control the other elbow. A lot of times I'd say you could go with the lapel, but in this case, I want to kind of accordion, you want to control the shoulders better. So grabbing that elbow somewhere is going to do it. Okay? Got that? Now, see how he's sugar footing that right foot? What he's going to do is going to turn his hip slightly and he's going to drive that heel right in there. Now, see, that's where we want, right there. See that? Now watch this movement here. Coming around, may take 2, 3, 4 steps, whatever it takes. Don't try to jump in one step. Short, choppy steps. So you set them up, anchor, and drive. And that short, choppy hopping action is very, very useful, very powerful. And that cutting around, that shaving off that corner, that rounding that corner, boy, does it work. And I mean, all weight classes. I've seen all kinds of people do it, male and female. It is a very effective and versatile application of Osoto Gari. And just to finish up, and again, everybody, there are a lot of different applications of Osoto Gari. These are just 3 of my favorite. There are others that I teach, that there's a lot of other people teach. And again, it's Osoto Gari, like most every throwing technique, or any technique for that matter, it's pretty much like someone's face. We all have a face. They all look different. And you can have a different look to your Osoto Gari as opposed to somebody else, as long as it works for you with a high rate of success. That's success. And when it comes to pragmatically speaking, when it comes to combat sports like judo, sambo, jiu-jitsu, whatever it may be. So, but anyway, just to wrap it up, I just want to say 2 points about Osoto Gari I may have mentioned earlier, but I want to reemphasize them again. It is a significantly important throw because there are 2 defining characters, 2 defining things about Osoto Gari. One, it's versatility. It's very versatile. Number 2 is its power. It's, oh, power is bad in judo. No, power is good in judo. It's what we need. Electricity makes things run. This is the electricity of a throwing technique, the power, and it is a powerful throw. You can really slam somebody cold with it. I've seen people knocked out cold with Osoto Gari. It's a very basic throw. Boy, does it work. So much to be said for Osoto Gari, at least in this episode. We may have more on it in another episode, but right now that kind of covers my 3 favorite techniques of doing Osoto Gari. Today's question and answer period, I got a really good question. It came as a result of an online discussion I was having with another person. And actually I've had it with several other people too, but specifically one person some time ago. And it was about when should we start teaching young people how to do strangles and chokes? And that leads also to the question, when should we start teaching young people how to do arm locks? Or if you're doing jiu-jitsu or sambo, when to do leg locks or other types of submissions? When's it appropriate? When are they physically ready? When are they emotionally, mentally ready? And I think those are serious questions. So let's look at some rules we have here in the United States in judo. I remember ever since I was a kid, started competing in 1965, you had to be at least 13 to be able to do strangles and chokes. And you had to be at least 17 to be able to do arm locks. Okay. And then for a long while after I started competing, the only people who could do arm locks were black belts. And that's changed considerably, but I remember that rule being in effect a long time when I was a young person, a teenager. Things have changed. In the AAU, with the AAU competition, we have chokes at 11, chokes and strangles at 11, and then arm locks at 15 and up. So you have to be at least 11 and up to be able to do strangles and chokes, and 15 and up to be able to do arm locks. Some people say that may be too young. Well, it may be. We've not had any not had really any injuries at all resulting from these because the referees are really on it and they stop the match immediately. By the rules, we give the referees authority to stop the match even before a tap out in case the student or the athlete looks like he's passing out or going out or is any chance of injury. So we're very careful about that. But maybe we should relook at that, okay? We'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, what are the best ages? And I've had coaches contact me. I remember when we were doing some Sambo tournaments, I had a coach call me and say, well, I have a 9-year-old, and can they do leg locks? I said, no, for Sambo rules, we don't allow submissions for that age group. They have to be older. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the age it is now for Sambo. I'd have to go back and look at the rules, but I know it's somewhere in the teens. I think around 14 or 15. But he said, well, he said he's very good at leg locks and arm locks, and I want him to do submissions. I said, well, we just don't do that. So to me, there has to be two factors. One is the student physically able to do that type of movement. Are they physically able to do arm locks, leg locks, submission techniques, and strangles? Physically able to, number one. There's the growth concerns there, okay? And number two, and I think even more important, are they mature enough? How mature is that student? Now, personally, because of the rules that in judo that we followed through the years, with USJI, now USA Judo, and then the AAU, I started teaching my students at about the age of 11 or 12 to do strangles and chokes. And always with under extreme, strict supervision by me or our other coaches in our program, and knowing that child is physically able. When I say physically, I mean physically mature enough to do it, but most of all, mentally and emotionally mature enough to do it. You might have a 15-year-old kid. He's still goofy as can be. And maybe you shouldn't be teaching him any type of submission techniques. There are a lot of adults we know like that too, but that's an aside. But those are the two things I always looked at, okay? And then as they got older, because when I was real active as a coach, the high school nationals were a really important deal for judo, and to place or win at that was a big deal. And they allowed arm locks at the age of 14. Any of the high school nationals, arm locks were allowed. So it was total judo. It was throws, pins, chokes, and arm locks, okay? And so if you wanted to have a kid who was prepared for the high school nationals or even regionally to qualify in early years, and after a while they didn't have any qualifiers for it, but if you want to have a competitive kid no matter what level, regionally or nationally, in the high school judo scene, he better know his arm locks or she better know her arm locks. So I worked with them hard on that too. So, but again, they were mature enough. So that's the key point. Are they physically mature and they are emotionally, mentally mature? Okay, and that's a decision that you as a coach have to make with your own students. I made it with my students. But let me propose this, and this is even something we may even, the AAU judo program, may even want to look at. Okay, so why do we have like a staggered thing? Why do we have strangles at an earlier age and arm locks at a later age? Why don't we do arm locks first and then chokes and strangles later? Or why is there even a stagger? Why do we have one and then the other? Why not, say at age 14, permit arm locks and strangles and chokes, okay? You know, shimewaza and kensetsu waza. Why not have it together so we know that there is a clean cutoff age at the age of 14 and up. Students can do arm locks, strangles, throws, and hold downs, okay? And that would be permissible through the total range of judo at the age of 14 and up. Just like the old high school national rules were. That's what they did. And again, I think that makes sense to me. And it's something we might even, so all you AAU judo folks out there, it's something we want to have a discussion internally about, because we may need to look at that. Because is 11 too young? Is 13 too young? Maybe. Is 17 too late to start them in submissions, especially in today's climate of when you see mixed martial arts and all different types of jiu-jitsu and Sambo, certainly. There are a lot of submission techniques out there. So at the age of 17, that's a bit late to get them involved in the program. Something to think about. So anyway, that ongoing discussion with one particular individual and then a number of others as well along the line, made me think, let's talk about this on our show, because I think it's worthy of a discussion. So I'm thinking maybe 14 and up, why not go? But again, if they are physically mature and mentally and emotionally mature, those are the two key factors to teach submission techniques, because we know injuries can happen, and they can be permanent injuries. Throwing techniques are dangerous too. Okay, so I mean, an injury can happen anywhere, so we should always practice safely and use good sense, as it were, in coaching sense when teaching dangerous skills, whether it be throws, even pins, certainly strangles and chokes, as well as arm locks or leg locks, like we do in Sambo and Jiu-Jitsu. So no matter what it is, let's be safe coaching them and practicing them. But I think those are some factors to think about. So anyway, it's out on the table, 14 and up, something to think about. Maybe we should think about it. Well, okay, I think that's enough for me today, and probably enough of you seeing me today. So I do appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you watch all of our shows. I try to make them as interesting as possible. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.